right, we got a Choom that needs our help. So, of course, we're going to help them out. Am I doing something wrong, this Choom asks. This is from Real American 97, 5 days ago on the Cyberpunk Red subreddit. It's asking, so, I'm a first-time game master for Red. The group I'm running is a bunch of good friends of mine, and we started playing about May of last year. For the most part, they've been having fun, I guess is what they're trying to say. The only problem is the group doesn't seem to actually be improving as a team. They can handle simple jobs, but every time I hand them something a bit challenging, they always flounder. A handful of goon gang boosters, no problem. But if one of them gets too hurt, the entire group peels out of the fight and essentially fails the gig. It's not that I've not been generous with eddies and improvement points, it's that they never seem to upgrade. They do their side hustle. They're immediately asking me about the next job. One player, all right, we got no punctuation here, guys, so just give me a chance here, okay? They never seem to upgrade. They do their side hustle. They immediately ask me about the next job. One player outright said, we can't upgrade without improvement points. Since we've started playing, they've earned roughly 1,000 IP each. That's a lot, dude. And this particular player is not using any cybernetics, still using his starter gun, and he's a nomad, so all his upgrades go into his cars. The most he does is he buys like the battle glove or the eyeglasses that can hold cybernetics, but he himself isn't using any. As a side note, I composed a complete document of all the guns and chrome available to buy, and I made a few homebrewed pieces from older editions, so there's plenty out there to pick from. They're just not using it. Long story short, am I not giving them enough, or are they not properly utilizing the materials they have? All right, this is a great question, okay? This is a question about why the players are not doing what they need to advance the story. And usually when something like that happens, I don't really blame the players. I don't blame anybody. That it's just, you know, maybe the game master is not picking up on something, but for sure the players are just doing whatever they want to have fun, okay? If they feel like their character is about to die and they're running away, I commend that kind of stuff, actually. I think that's a great idea, all right? Running away is one of the greatest strategies that you can have as a player in Cyberpunk. So I definitely recommend that you take a look at your players, you talk to them, and you see what what do they want out of this game. Because if they're running away every time there's a challenge, then maybe the challenge isn't what they think it's going to be. And maybe failing the gig, has there been consequences to that? You know, because fixers don't want to work with people that don't have a good reputation of getting jobs done. If you're not getting the jobs done, fixers don't want to work with you, okay? So that's a whole thing in itself. It's the players learning that, hey, we better do something here or else we're going to fall out of favor with the fixers that we're working with. Secondly, writing a complete document of all the guns and chromes available to buy is not something your players are going to look at, all right? It's pulling teeth just to get your players to read the core rulebook, okay? And then even then, they're not really reading the core rulebook. It's because you don't really have to read that much of the core rulebook to be able to play the game. I played Warhammer Wrath and Glory, and I read maybe like 5% of the core rulebook, and I got through a session just fine. Why? Because the VTT took care of most of the calculation, and the game master knew all the rules and all the things that he needed to know, so we can actually play the game. So anytime I had a question, the game master was like, I can take care of it. So if I'm only reading 5% of the core rulebook as a player, I'm going to read 0% of whatever document you give me, okay? So what I'm trying to say is I don't think you shouldn't make those kinds of documents. I just think the expectation shouldn't be that your players are actually going to read these documents or anything that you give them. I personally recommend that you just give them one or two options in game and they pick from the one or two options. You're like, hey, this character could really use an assault rifle. They haven't asked for one, but I see them struggling in combat when everybody else is doing well. So why don't I present them with an assault rifle and see if they even want it. If they don't want it, then okay, they don't want it. You know what I mean? But at least I can say that I presented it to them, or and make it in a cool way, make it in a fun way. They open up a box. There's a military box labeled Militech on it, and it says classified, do not open. And they have to do a skill check to open it. They open it, and it's this beautiful, pristine, excellent quality assault rifle. You know what I mean? Then they worked for it, they got it, they earned it, and you did present it to them, but you didn't just give it to them. They had to work for it, they had to understand it, they still have to get ammunition, they have to understand how it works, they have to read a manual, they got to do library search, all those things. It makes the weapon more important. A rep penalty for sure, and maybe a fixer needed the gig to go through. They fail, so the fixer takes it personal and sends some hit squads after them. Yeah, just let them know that it's not okay to fail. You know what I mean? And you're not really going to get any work. And then when it comes to negotiations with future fixers, they have to know that failure, you got to risk it for the biscuit. Running away when somebody gets hurt, that's just not going to work, you know? And that will motivate them to be like, hey, you know what? We do need to upgrade. I think the problem is they don't know what kind of upgrades they can get, and making a document and giving them a document and saying do homework is not going to work. It's just really not going to work. The best way to do it is to actually interact with folks and tell them like, hey, you could use a linear frame, or you know what, this cyberarm with this option could really help you in combat or help you in a social situation, and you present it to them as the game master. You're the one that has the knowledge, you know. Also, we went past this, but 1,000 IP is so much, dude. You can improve so much with 1,000 IP. Whenever I'm making like when one of my character or players is like, hey, I want to make a new character, but I want to be on par with the other players, I give them a bunch of money and I give them 500 IP. Okay, so they've earned double the amount that I give to a player that has a veteran character. You know what I mean? So 1,000 IP is more than enough. What it seems like is they're not reading the book, which maybe that's some kind of communication you can throw at them. Be like, look, you guys don't have to read all of the book. Just read this part, and like point them in the direction of where they need to read. Read about the skills, read about IP, okay? And then you take care of the items and stuff like that. Because listen, as a game master, it behooves you to read the entire core rulebook. And guess what? Even as a game master, you might not read the entire core rulebook. There's just so much in there. There's too much information, okay? You might gloss over some of the cyberware options because you're like, okay, I get it. There's cyberware options, okay? I'm not going to retain all this information. So instead, you just come back whenever that's relevant in your campaign and you go like, okay, now let me look at those cyberware options because my players are at a spot where they could use cool upgrades. So let me see what kind of stuff I could give them. So obviously what's disconnecting here is they don't know what they can use all this stuff for. And assuming that they're just going to read the book and figure out what they want is not always going to work out. In my opinion, in my experience, whenever I've had a group, there's like 2 or 3 people, maybe even one person that's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do with all my money. I've been saving up. I have a plan. I've theory crafted this character down. So as soon as I have enough IP and money, they're going to be the best martial artist in the world. Okay. They figured it out. They're reading the books. They're reading the DLCs. They're private messaging you. Hey, can we use this DLC? Can I use that DLC? Can I use this homebrew item from 2020? They got a plan. Okay. Those players you don't have to worry about. You don't have to send them any documents, okay? But the people that are unsure about what to get, you just have to talk to them, have a conversation with them. What do you see with this character? What's your vision with this character? What is this character supposed to do? In combat, how do they handle themselves? Okay, if we can't find an item in the book, let's make one. Let's homebrew one. And let's make a fun adventure on how you're going to find it. Maybe you work with a fixer that's going to give you the thing that you want on top of the money. And now it's like, dude, I don't want to run away. I know that one of you is hurt, but I really want that cyber arm, okay? That experimental cyber arm from Arasaka. I want it. Okay, so let's just risk it and let's go in. Failure is not an option. Okay, I have a tendency to be really harsh when talking to other GMs, so I'm going to do my best to be nice here. Oh, great. Your friends sound like weenies who are way attached to their characters and can't fathom possibly losing one of them or doing anything drastic out of necessity. I don't necessarily think that's true. By the sound of how much IP you've given them, I imagine a fair amount of money, and the fact that they're your good friends, you're likely enabling their weeniness by not having consequences for failing jobs. All right, I know I'm not going to agree with this person, but let's keep going. It's not that you're not giving them enough, it's that there's no reason for them to ever risk anything because they're fine no matter what. When you're the GM, you're not the player's enemy, but you're also not their friend. Your job is to make the game fun, interesting, and challenging and help make it a good story. I agree with that. Look at it this way. Your friends are your friends, but their characters are not. Jesus Christ. You're not the enemy, but your players' characters are your enemy. Here's my suggestion. All right, here we go. Ask yourself some questions. They keep failing jobs. Who's hiring them? Why does this person, these people keep hiring them? If they keep bailing on jobs, would you keep hiring, say, a plumber who shows up, sees the leaky pipes, and then says ew and leaves? Well, we already saw in another post that they already pissed off a few fixers. And we do agree with this point that if somebody keeps failing, they wouldn't be hired again. So definitely, like, if you're working with an S grade fixer, if you fail the job, you've now been demoted to using an A grade fixer, down to a B. And then you might even jump all the way to D and skip C, because even the C list guys are like, I don't want to work with these dudes. They're gonks. You know what I mean? So the fixers that they work with, the pool is diminishing in the quality. By now, they have a reputation for being flaky. The street should see them as weak and act accordingly. Jesus Christ, some weak. Other edge runners laugh at them. Reputable fixers should be turning up their noses at them. Let them spiral into destitution from lack of frequent, well-paid work. It'll give them a chance at a redemption arc where they harden the fuck up. Okay, chill out, dude. This is like Sigma male talk. So they're saying make the game unfun for them as a punishment, and then maybe they'll decide to have fun. When you literally just said right here, your job is to make the game fun and interesting and challenging and help make it a good story. What part of this is fun? What part of this is fun? Being ridiculed, laughed at, and spiraling into destitution from lack of frequent, well-paid work? It doesn't seem, that's not fun. You're punishing them because they don't know how to upgrade their characters. If they're running away from combat, that doesn't mean they're weenies. Okay, it's called self-preservation. Sometimes retreating is a tactic that's used in the military. It doesn't necessarily mean that the military using it are a military of weenies. Okay, it's just fighting another day, living to fight another day, or fighting when you have a better advantage and you're at a disadvantage. Fighting out of an ambush, does that make you a weenie, running away from an ambush? So anyway, maybe an edge runner who sees them floundering gives them some tips on not being weenies if they need that help, yeah, so I don't agree at all with anything this person said. Not at all, but most of the things they said I don't agree with. I think my original point that there's a disconnect between the information that the players have and what the GM has is true. I think that the players just don't know how to upgrade their characters. They don't know what they need. They don't know what it is that will make their characters powerful or be able to handle a combat situation. And you just have to work with them, and talk to them and see what's going on. There's obviously a disconnect here. You're saying that's not what he said. He said they're not your friend. I agree with this. But they are your friend. They are your friends. That's not true. The game master is just there to adjudicate the rules, and you don't necessarily have to be the enemy of your players. The NPCs are the enemies of your players. You just have to act accordingly to what the NPCs would do. You're just throwing obstacles at them that are logical, okay? You're throwing challenges at them, but that doesn't make you their enemy. Okay, that makes you the game master. You are creating the game. You're adjudicating the rules. If they're running away, see, this is the thing about, this is what game masters don't understand. They think that when their players make a mistake, that it automatically means that it needs to be punished. That's what an adversary would do. If you're an adversary against someone, they are your enemy, they are your opponent, you take advantage of their mistakes. That's what you do in combat. That's what any sport you think of, they do that. Okay, they have a weak side, especially like fighting sports, mixed martial arts. Your opponent has a weak side, you go for the weak side. You've been kicking his leg for 4 rounds. You've just destroyed his mobility. You're taking advantage of the fact that now he doesn't have mobility. You can get around him and set up something else. That's your enemy, all right? That's your opponent. The players at your table are not your opponent, okay? They're your friends. You're telling a cooperative story together. If they're running away from all of your combat encounters, you need to figure out why that's happening, okay? Not try to figure out how you can punish them for running away. The consequences of them running away are there. Fixers will stop working with them. Fixers will not be inclined to work with them, or they'll do it for a cheaper price, or maybe they get the worst kind of fixers working with them. But even then, you still got to give them a way to overcome that. Just making the game spiral into an unfun mess just doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't seem like it's a fun thing to do. I think we came to the conclusion that the players just don't know what they're supposed to do to upgrade their characters. They don't understand the game. Okay, if they're running away all the time, then they're like, oh, we got to pull the plug, dude. Like, this is bad. Something bad is happening. Okay, and that means they don't have the confidence in their power to be like, okay, I know something bad is happening right now, but we all got assault rifles, so we're going to put the hurt on these bad guys in the next round. And it's going to be better. We're on the top of the initiative queue. Who's next? So the solo is next. Okay, well, the solo is probably going to take out that sniper. So even though one of our guys is critically injured, I know that our team is capable of taking out the bad guys. They don't have that knowledge. They don't have that. They're disconnected from that. So instead of trying to figure out how to punish them for not having knowledge, I think the best thing to do is to try to teach them what they need, figure out which characters are the weakest. I'll give you an example. When I was working with infinite sided dice, we did that whole Christmas special. One of the characters in the group is an executive, and the executive is really good at persuasion, really good at social interactions, but is terrible at combat, okay? So when combat came around, they were just hiding, running away, not really trying to engage in combat, maybe trying to find like side quests to do during the combat or supportive things they can do. And there wasn't really much to do, If you can't handle yourself in combat in Cyberpunk, it sucks. It's not fun. That's what a lot of people find out when they're like, oh, I'll just keep a little pistol on me. Then they realize, well, the little pistol doesn't do anything, So what I ended up doing was I had a conversation with that player and their game master, because I was a guest and their game master was going to take over. And I told them, hey, there's like other skills that you can focus on that are not combat based that can help you, like tactics, a tactics skill. You can use that to survey the battleground, see what's going on, and give like bonus buffs to your other players, or learn about weak points, or learn about your terrain, stuff like that. Library search, learning about your enemy, their weaknesses. Those are like the supportive things you can do. The player had no idea they could do all those things. They were like, oh, I didn't even know that this was even an option. Game Master hit me up and was like, hey, can we talk more about all that stuff you were talking about? And now they have a plan. They have an idea of how they can make that character a little bit more able to help, a little bit more significant in combat. Instead of calling her a weenie and saying like, it's your fault for not buying an assault rifle. I don't care if you're an exec. You have money, buy an assault rifle. She doesn't want an assault rifle. She doesn't want to be fighting in combat the way other people are. She wants to be in a supportive role. So, you know, we could punish her and be like, well, too bad, you're playing the wrong game. Or we could try to find a way to educate her and maybe give her the information and empower her and support her into making the character that she wants to make. So that's my philosophy when it comes to the players, okay? What's going on right here in this game, that's what needs to happen with the game master. We need to connect with the players. We need to connect with the group, and we need to find out what it is that they want from this game. If they're running away from every combat encounter, then they're not feeling confident about winning combat encounters. That's why they're running away. If you guys go to the link in the description, it's loadeddicegames.shop. This is my local gaming store. And if you guys go there and check out the Cyberpunk collection, you will see that there's a giant sale going on right now. So, and if you use the promo code JonJon at checkout, you'll get an additional 10% off of whatever you're seeing here. So I'm just letting you guys know, loadeddicegames.shop. If you've been wanting to buy some Cyberpunk minis, right now is the time to go and do it. These are official Cyberpunk minis from Monster Fight Club, not the knockoff stuff, the real deal.